people see the Rogan appearance and then obviously before that, but tell me how much time, because I want to know how much time you spent behind the scenes developing your expertise in your craft, because I think a lot of people chase platform and they want to be on Rogan, or they want to have the platform, but they don't understand the educational expertise that you have to go through, and what did that take, and how long were you studying and going to college, and then how long were you practicing before any of this stuff happened. So what was just like your academic background, and then how much time did you spend doing Apologetics Canada before it really took off in summer of 2024?
Yeah, well, I went into university with full intention of going into the police force.
Okay.
It was funny. I said that on Rogan, and then the national director of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police reached out to me and is like, "Hey, we're still hiring if you want a job." And this isn't like a police officer. This is like the guy in charge of all the police officers.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny when that email came across. But that was my ambition. I did a co-op with the Ontario Provincial Police when I was in high school, and felt, at least at that point, that there was a conviction that there needed to be believers in the police force.
Amen.
That I saw a lot of guys that were just bitter, and for reasons that are totally understandable. They'd seen stuff, right? And even as a 17-year-old kid, they would react to me in a certain way, and I got it, right? Because of the just proliferation of people that they're running into who were my age, who looked like me, who were just troublemakers. And so I thought, there needs to be good people in this field. And not that I didn't believe that when I went off to university, but all of a sudden I was having conversations with people on the university campus who were skeptics, atheists, Mormons, Muslims, fill in the gaps. Toronto is an incredibly diverse, if not one of the most diverse cities in the world. And having all these conversations and just feeling very passionately that was something that I wanted to do. I didn't know how to do it. And I kind of had a bit of an identity crisis, in that I was like, I see this thing, I'm pursuing it. I was at university. I was running track competitively. And so all my free time was, I was in the gym, I was on the track, I was attending classes out of obligation, but it clearly was not something that I was truly pushing into in terms of a passion. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was chasing down the Mormon missionaries in the neighborhood, or I was going to the local mosque and talking with the imam and, the groups of Muslims there. And I realized at about my third year of a 4-year program, I don't know what my future looks like.
And what were you officially studying? Police academy stuff?
No, I was doing an undergrad in sociology with an emphasis on law.
Oh,
with the plan that I was going to graduate from that, and I was going to go to police college, and I was going to pursue being a police detective.
Right.
That was the goal.
Interesting.
And so I'd kind of mapped a lot of that out, and I often tell the story that I was sitting on my then girlfriend, now wife's couch at her apartment just outside of campus, and I was reading a systematic theology book by Alistair McGrath, and I'd just come back from, literally someone told me that Mormon missionaries were in the neighborhood, and I'd gone out to find them, to talk to them.
Mormon missionaries? Or just,
Yeah. The Mormons usually come to you. I was going to them. And so they were, and just talking to them about the Bible and stuff. And because I was reading the Book of Mormon, and I wanted to know what, they thought about certain things, and, going back and forth and trying to get, from the horse's mouth. They're the ones who are going out and teaching this is truth. How do I interact with that? And I'd come back from doing that, and I was reading this book, and my girlfriend, Melissa, she comes through the door from the kitchen, and she says, "Wes, I don't think you want to be a cop." And that was this light bulb moment where I was like, yeah, you're right.
But you're already 3 years in.
Yeah.
So what'd you do?
I finished the program.
Okay.
And then I applied for seminary, because I didn't know what the next step was, but I knew that I probably needed some sort of formal theological education.
Okay.
And my dad was a graduate of Tyndale, which was a seminary. And so I did a master's of theological studies at Tyndale, just because I didn't know what the next steps were, but I knew that I had to just keep moving forward. And so focused on New Testament studies, really doubling down on the biblical languages, because that's where I was interested. When I was talking to all these people, no matter what their worldview was, their brand of skeptic towards Christianity, a lot of the conversations about problem of evil, existence of God, would come down to some version of, Wes, you keep citing the Bible. You can't trust that. Translations of translations, missing books, error-written copies. You name it, I'd heard it. From different iterations, from the Muslims, from the Mormons, from the Jehovah's Witnesses, from the atheists. And so some of them actually did sound convincing. So I thought, okay, I need to figure that out. And it was going down that road, particularly with the investigation of the manuscripts, that really interested me. Because not only did it confirm things for me, but actually I found that not just the opposite was true, but far more than that was true, in that a lot of the objections about, say, differences between the manuscripts, I found out actually confirmed the Bible, that it was because of the differences that we can have confidence. So that just really lit a fire under me.
And this was in seminary?
It started to happen when I was in my undergrad, with kind of getting into, but very much at a lower level, like just like a lay level, grabbing some books, reading Misquoting Jesus by Bart Ehrman, and then the responses by Dan Wallace, or some of the stuff that James White or Peter J. Williams or whoever these guys are were putting out, and thinking like, okay, well, what are the best arguments and what are the best rebuttals? And going back and forth in some of those things. And then when I was in seminary, one of my Greek professors pulled up codexsinaiticus.org, the now famous Sinai Bible, and said, we're going to read it from the manuscript. We're going to do Greek from the manuscript today. And just thinking, you can look at that. And that really kind of changing my perspective on, okay, it's not just a theoretical thing of words on, a text. I can see something that was written 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800 years ago by a Christian or by someone who was producing something that Christians used, and that can give me a picture of the fidelity of the text going from ancient papyrus to modern day print.
That's awesome. So you go from a lay level of this to then seminary. And then what happens, and how long did seminary take, and what came after seminary for you?
Yeah, so I did a 3-year degree, a Master's of Theological Studies, and then I started another Master's, a THM, a Master's of Theology, which is a master's degree that requires a master's degree. It's kind of a PhD prep course at the University of Toronto. And I started that, and I was recruited during the process of that by someone who was working with Power to Change, right, crew in Canada, who wanted to start a team of apologists within the student ministry who would travel and teach and recruit other people who showed promise in the area of Christian apologetics. So we started this team we called Ultimate Questions, UQ, that was part of the ministry, and there were 7 of us originally. Now, a bunch of things happened where that didn't work out in the way that we originally planned it. But I got recruited to do that and was like, okay, this is at minimum, this is a push in the right direction. This is what I want to do. Because I knew that I couldn't graduate with a seminary degree, take my diploma into the apologetics factory and get a job. Right. That didn't exist.
Right.
And there were apologetic ministries, like Arzim in Canada still existed. There were a couple of others. I knew Apologetics Canada existed out in BC, in British Columbia, but there was no presence in Ontario where I was. So I was still trying to figure some things out. I was purposefully meeting with a guy named Andy Bannister, who at the time was the Canadian director of Arzim. He now lives out in Scotland. He's a Brit from the UK. He runs an organization called SOLAS, the Center, Public Center for Christianity. Does great work. But he was kind of mentoring me in a very informal way and giving me a lot of advice. There were a few others who were very instrumental in that. But I'd started this second master's degree, and then I got hired with P2C, and they were like, Wes, you need to raise your salary. And I was like, okay, how do we do that while I do graduate college? And so I ended up putting...
Wait, say that one more time. You need to support what?
Raise your salary. So when you do campus ministry, you go out and you ask for financial support in order to actually get paid. So it's reliant on the giving of others.
It's straight missionary work.
Yeah, it's missionary work. It's local missionary work, partnership development. And so I started doing that. and I put the master's degree on hold.
Wow.
And in the process of that, a friend of mine who was at the admissions department at one of the colleges at the Toronto School of Theology, he notified me, made me aware of the fact that there was a certain amount of funding for the PhD program in New Testament studies that could very well go untapped if no one locally applies for the PhD program. Mm-hmm. And so at that point in time, he said, okay, Wes, you have to de-enroll in your current master's program, which was on pause. And there's no guarantee that you'll get in the PhD program. But if you do get in the PhD program, it's almost certain that this funding, which will cover the degree for a number of years, will be given to you. Okay. So there's risk, there's no guarantee, but it might be a risk worthy of taking for the reward.
That's a lot of risk. And you're sustaining yourself, it sounds like, from fundraising.
Yeah. Whew. And I just got married. My wife and I were just married. She was finishing teacher's college, and then she was working at a private classical Christian school in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And so all of this was going on, and that's what I did. I de-enrolled from the master's program that had started, and I re-enrolled in the PhD program, and I got in.
Wow.
So that led me on to where I am today and trying to desperately wrap that up.
Yeah.
But
so you're almost done with the PhD, or where are you at with the PhD?
Yeah, that's the goal, is that I'm going to be done sooner rather than later.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds like that sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot to be in a position where you're an apologist. And that's why I've personally never used the word apologist for myself, because I get the actual work ethic and grind to go and do the academic side. And I respect it way too much to just be flippant with it. You know, some people were like, I'm not. No, I'm not. Like, there's real apologists that I rather really point to and lean on the expertise of others instead of being this faux internet learned, guy. And so it's interesting to hear that, because I think, and the reason why I had you share that, because I think most people don't understand what it takes to be in a position where, when and if the platform comes, you have the character and the tacit knowledge to maneuver the new waters that you're having to maneuver through.
Apologetics is a weird thing in that sense, because it kind of requires people to be a generalist, because you're going to be asked questions on all sorts of things. Like, my area of expertise is in New Testament studies, biblical studies, issues pertaining to biblical manuscripts and church history. But I'm going to get asked on the problem of evil. Yep. It's just going to happen. Yep. I'm going to get asked on science stuff. And in one sense, I'm not going to pursue going out and doing an entire presentation on that. But I'm also going to need at some level to be able to answer a question on that. So it's a kind of a daunting task to be able to be a generalist, but also it requires you to be a specialist.
Yeah.
Like, the best advice I can give for someone who wants to pursue Christian apologetics, particularly if they want to do it in a way where it's a career for them, is to figure out what your passion truly is and then just jump down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because the best thing you can possibly do is find your niche and become the best you can possibly be at that. Because the jack of all trades is only going to get you so far, and it actually might cause you more issues, because you might just know enough to get yourself into trouble and not enough to get out of it.